Welcome. I'm Kinetic Symphony. I hunt down and report on weird and true mysterious stories, from glitches to the paranormal. Would you like even more content? Here's my Patreon. Now onto the stories. Case file number 1321, written by CrieDeCoeur, the service station stop that saved us. This happened just a few weeks ago. Wife and I are driving down I-79 through Pennsylvania about 4 hours into a 6-hour road trip to Pittsburgh. It's about 11 p.m., snowing pretty hard in places, not very much traffic at all. We're about to pass a service station. Wife asked if I need to stop and use the washroom. I didn't, but for some reason I said sure, I have to use it. I quickly run inside, trying to take a leak anyway, but it doesn't happen. I get back into the car and we take off. The whole pit stop from beginning to end is maybe 4 minutes. We get back on the highway. After exactly 4 minutes of driving, we come across a 2-car collision that literally just happened. One car is already pulled over and the driver is on the phone to 911. We stayed, but weren't really witnesses. Several people were severely injured in the wreck. So I am convinced that had we not stopped at the service station, we would have been in that accident. The timing was just too close. So why did I tell my lady to stop at the service station when I didn't need to pee? We were talking about it immediately after we started back on the road, after the police and ambulances came. It was very odd. Case notes for file 1321. The service station stop that saved us. Okay, so this story reminds me a lot of another one that I recently narrated, where there was a mother that came home and didn't want to put her baby or her kid to sleep in the upstairs crib. And then she didn't know why. She just had this feeling of watching TV. No rhyme or reason at all. But then the actual ceiling in that room just collapsed randomly. No way to know. Was it like a subconscious piece of nugget of information like she saw in the periphery of her vision one day that the ceiling was cracked and it's like the mind connected and processed that, yeah, in the next hour it's going to collapse. That doesn't seem possible to me, but maybe. One thing is absolutely abundantly clear is that the mind has a lot of power, and some minds especially are able to predict with great accuracy future events. In this case, I don't think there's any possible way it was just pure like extra information in your subconscious, just from the natural world. It was some information drawn from a future, not far in the future, but still from the future. But wherever the information came from, it was real information, and damn. It is interesting how sometimes minds are not able to consciously process that. Like you didn't get a vision of it happening. You're just like, yeah, I gotta go pee, even though I don't. Your subconscious wasn't able to translate that information consciously into something clear. But I guess if you listen to your gut, it doesn't have to be clear. Bonus file written by Canadabigjack. When a dream unravels a tragic detail. I was on a volunteer fire department and we were called out to a single vehicle rollover. There were 2 occupants in the vehicle, a guy and a girl, boyfriend and girlfriend, and the girl was very much dead when we got there. We waited with the guy on the tailgate of the vehicle until the ambulance arrived and stabilized him for transport to the hospital. While we were waiting, he explained that they were sitting side by side, cuddling as they drove and sharing Mike and Ike's between each other's lips while kissing. The next day, the fire department had a debriefing meeting to check in on one another after such a stressful event. This one guy starts explaining a recurring dream he had where the girl who died in the crash was trying to get his attention to explain what had happened. How they had a candy between their lips kissing. He didn't even know what Mike and Ike's were, but kind of explained that they were like candy Tic Tacs that were longer and started with the letter M. When one of us suggested Mike and Ike's, he explained, "That's it! That's what she was trying to tell me." This freaked the hell out of me. The guy was on a tragic duty for this call and was easily more than 500 yards from the scene of the accident. There were only 3 firefighters at the actual scene, I being one of them. Because the accident was late in the evening, we didn't debrief immediately after because everyone needed their sleep. There was no way Buddy could have known this intimate detail of the crash. It was all unexplainable and easily the eeriest thing I've ever experienced. Case notes for the bonus file. When a dream unravels a tragic detail. Man, that is very sad. To go out that way, to drive distracted in that sense, love is potent and I get it, but obviously it didn't end well for the girl. At least the guy survived, but And then you have this firefighter that dreamt this was going to happen. Incredible. And again, it's just referring to future information. And this one is much more further out because this guy was having a dream recurring, I don't know for how long, but maybe weeks of this happening. So you have information that's set in the future. And I think in these visions, they're not set in stone. It's a potential future that is probable, likely, based on the current dominoes falling in the vicinity of the area. I don't think they're set in stone, but they're just very probable. One possible future of many, but in this case, was very accurate. Personally, I don't find that eerie, unless there's only one future, and it's set in stone, and we're just reliving it, and there's no way to ever affect it. And we're not reliving it as a replay. It's just one future that is, this is the first ride and that's it. You're basically on a roller coaster rail system. I don't want that. I do want to have some control, or at least that I did already have some control because I'm just reliving it, but I still made choices earlier on. So free will is very important to me. And I think to most people. Would you even want to live if you knew free will wasn't real? I wouldn't. It's boring. What's the point? Bonus file written by UbiquitousBiscuit. The puzzling tale of the Jingle toys. When I was in high school, my family and I lived in a loft above an insurance business downtown, and it was a smallish building. Small enough that there was only room for one apartment, so we were the only people living there. At the time, I would get up the earliest, so everything was pretty quiet aside from the usual car noises from outside. One Monday, I woke up to my alarm and I thought I heard jingling sound. I turned my alarm off and sat up in my bed listening for a few seconds before I heard it again. I couldn't think of an explanation. I didn't have anything with bells on it that I could think of. I looked under my bed and around my room to see if anything had fallen that would make a sound like that, but there was nothing. The setup of this apartment was weird. I had to walk through my little brother's room to get to my room, and so I walked through his room on my way out to the living room and kitchen. My brother was still sound asleep, and I didn't see any toys around that would jingle like that. Upon entering the living room, I immediately noticed that the laundry room door was open. Not wide open, but cracked open enough to make it obvious. We always kept the door closed unless we were in there doing laundry. I looked around and didn't see anything out of place. When I got back from school, I asked my parents and my brother if they had left the laundry room door open, and they claimed not to. On Tuesday, everything was normal. But Wednesday, the same exact scenario happened again. I woke up and heard unexplained jingling, and found the laundry room door cracked open again. Fast forward about a year later, my mom had moved the stove for the first time since we lived there, and we found a cat's toy underneath. Cat toys with bells in them that jingled just like what I had heard before. When we initially moved in, my mom had found what appeared to be cat litter on the floor in the laundry room. And she had even heard a cat meowing at one point, and looked everywhere only to find nothing, and assumed that it must have come from outside. After piecing all this together though, we couldn't help but wonder if we had a ghost cat from a previous tenant living with us, batting at the jingling toys, and going into the laundry room to use the litter box. The door was open just enough for a cat to fit through. It never happened again after those 2 days though. Weird. Case notes for the bonus file. The puzzling tale of the Jingle toys. I'm telling you, cats have spirits, pets have spirits, dogs, cats. It is a question, to what extent do insects have spirits, souls? I don't know. Where is the cutoff point? Obviously, like bacteria and viruses don't. Single cell, like the red blood cells in your body don't. But you do. So where is the cutoff? I don't know. But I definitely, when it comes to animals, like pretty intelligent animals, dogs, cats, pigs, cows, elephants, dolphins, especially dolphins, it probably does connect to intelligence. Maybe there's a certain level of raw intelligence you need to have before you can actually play host to an animating soul. When it comes to cats, dogs, 100%. So yeah, what we have here is a cat repeating their pattern, just going to the litter even though it can't anymore. Given how many pets we have that obviously do die pretty quickly, much quicker than humans, why aren't there that many spirits of cats and dogs around? I guess they fade out, maybe they fade out quicker, or whatever it is that binds a human behind, or any spirit for an animal or not. It probably does require a certain potent event that is maybe traumatic or highly emotionally charged at the time of death or nearby it. They want to say unfinished business. Something like that along those lines, that emotion binds you to the planet. but not forever. I think spirits do fade over time. So that would explain why it just didn't come back. Once or twice, and that's it. And now time for the quote of the day. The belief in a supernatural source of evil is not necessary. Men alone are quite capable of every wickedness. Joseph Conrad. This arises quite a few times in the creepy files that I read, where the creepier files I read are probably the most dangerous. You don't hear often about a spirit or even a creature that just ends up killing someone. Now it's true, there's selection bias in that. The ones that do end up dying, they probably don't have stories written about them unless it's from a relative or a loved one. And that does happen sometimes, but in my opinion, I think supernatural entities and events and glitches in the universe are not the truly risky part. And it's the same thing when you think about like the apocalypse and scenarios where, like in zombie movies, it's not the zombies that you have to be afraid of, it's the human beings. Because we are capable of extraordinary evil and extraordinary good. Maybe that is what makes us so special. We are capable of both malice and purity within the same damn day. Being capable of something doesn't mean anything. Ultimately, it's all down to free will. What do you choose to be? Today, tomorrow, next minute. It's all on you. You get to choose. Like the video, subscribe, hit the bell. Kinetic Symphony signing off.